Well,
And
good morning once again, everybody. My name's Patrick Butler, and that was Eric Wilner getting ready to join in as the moderator. But today I'll be hosting episode number 67 of the 5 Year Real Estate Career video podcast. Today's topic is 90 days to credit power, help clients win, and never lose a deal again. Interesting, isn't it? Wouldn't that be a fun niche to tackle? Did you know that nearly 38% of all Americans have subprime credit scores below 620, blocking them from home ownership, as well as worse pricing on credit offerings, the inability to sometimes lease or purchase automobiles, all kinds of things that are affected by this crazy thing that we call bad credit. Last year alone, Americans paid a staggering 140 billion with a B dollars in credit card interest rates. And you know who pays the highest interest rates? Those with the lowest credit score. So this is a very important topic today. And lastly, over 60% of folks that are renting right now believe in their brains that the number one reason why they cannot become or are not currently homeowners is what? Their credit. These are all topics that we're going to talk about today, but I'd like you just to take 1 second and imagine, if you can, whether you're brand new to the business or have been in it for 100 years, starting a real estate career that in 5 years, 5 short years, can build an abundant source of income, direct, indirect, and passive, that'll pay you for the rest of your life. You could then become a retired individual, semi-retired, or continue working to build wealth. That's what we're bringing to you here at the 5 Year Real Estate Career. I would encourage you to pay attention to all of these sessions that we provide to you on a weekly basis, because 5 years to financial freedom, ladies and gentlemen, starts with one thing and one thing only, and that is abundant leads. So before I introduce my co-host, visit us at the 5 Year Career YouTube channel at 5 Year Career, or our website, 5yearcareer.com, to learn more. I'd like to introduce you to my dear friend and co-host, Mr. Eric Wilner. Eric, please say hello to everybody.
good morning. As you can see, I was like ready to chomping at the bit to go at this topic today. So I apologize for that. But this is a really important topic, and whether you're buying your very first home or whether you're buying your 21st investment property, credit matters. And that's why today's episode, I think, is going to be very powerful. That's going to be very informative. And as a professional, as a real estate professional, helping others, being in command of not only your own credit, which is important, but also in the credit knowledge makes you a much more valuable person. So back to you, Patrick.
All right. Well, so Eric, we are going to kind of flip flop through a few concepts here, but one of the things that we learn about in dealing with credit, and I know, Eric, you provide a credit repair solution, so it's very near and dear to your heart, is getting our consumers. And by the way, realtors on the call, realtors that are going to be watching us on demand, this is for you. This is for you to share with your clients. And think about all of the folks that have been turned down for loans or think they are turned down for loans because they don't have good credit. Imagine if you could help them get back on credit track to become a homeowner. In fact, we have found that in many cases, you can get somebody back on track within 6 months, even less in some cases, to becoming a homeowner. So, Eric, we talk about the mindset shift. Talk to me a little bit about that, how we get started.
You know, that's where it all starts. I have a little saying that I use all the time, and it applies in credit as well. And I says, how you do some things is how you do most things. And it's all about having that mindset. You see, another thing I like to say is that everyone is in real estate, and I always get very curious looks, and I go like, everyone is in real estate. Unless you have defied gravity, everyone is in real estate. Either you're on real estate because you rent it and you borrow it, whether at work or at home, you're borrowing it for temporary use, or you're in real estate where you own it. You negotiate it, you researched it, and you're getting all the tax benefits of it. You're getting all the financial benefits, even the personal and intangible, lower teenage pregnancy, lower divorce rates. All home ownership is probably one of the few cures for almost everything. And so you want to be in real estate. And the beautiful thing about what we do as real estate professionals is that we get to help other people attain that, the American dream. And that's why home ownership builds wealth, renting does not. In fact, I'll even add a little math that renting is $1 million mistake. Today, think about, Patrick, today, the average rent is about $2,000 across the country. 2,000, and then give or take, right? So at that point, 24,000 a year, give or take. Let's call it 25. So every 4 years, you're basically smoking $100,000 gone. Do that for just 10 years, rent 10 years of your life, and you will have spent $1 million. And here's the, I don't know, sad part about it, or the ironic part is $1 million will go through your hands. Through every American makes over $1 million in their career, and yet most people end up with nothing to show for it and bad credit to boot. So our mission here on our radio show, on our podcast, on everything that we do here is to help educate, empower, enable, and hopefully encourage people to take the next action. So mindset, when you get your head around the importance, the vast importance. In fact, I'll leave off saying this one last thing. Your credit score could easily be the most important single number digit that you need to focus on. Your Social Security isn't going to make your number isn't going to make you money or make you investments. Your bank account, it's only what you put in it. Your credit score opens up lots of doors. And that's why, speaking about unlocks a lot of doors, let's talk about why credit is like a gatekeeper.
Okay, and since we are oftentimes truth sayers here, Eric, I did the math. 10 years at $25,000 a year is 250 grand, not a million.
So
However,
times four. So times four. That 40 years.
got it.
Thank you.
But nevertheless, I think you're still spot on because after 10 years, not only have you spent $250,000, you don't have what probably would be tantamount to another five to $700,000 in home equity, making that number today truly $1 million mistake. So why is credit the gatekeeper? Well, folks, I hate to say it, in this country, cash is no longer king. It's great if you have it, but we've always got to have the ability to leverage when we're purchasing expensive items, in particular real estate. So first of all, the lender. The lender is the person that we need to talk to. In fact, we've got a couple guys on this call right now that are in the mortgage business, and they'll tell you that your credit is the first thing that they want to check. That'll determine whether you are ready to go today, you've got a little bit of homework to do, or you've got a lot of work to do ahead of time. They're not just looking, the lenders are not just looking at your credit score, although that's very important. We keep hearing about that 600 point magic delimiter here, but they're also looking at your payment history, how you make your payments. Are you likely to default on the loan that they're putting up for your collateral, the home? Your utilization of credit. We're going to get into the description of this a little bit more, and the length of credit, types of credit that you have. So your credit report tells an entire story about your ability to pay, and that's vital. Now, unfortunately, oftentimes in this country, we don't teach the youth. Did you say youth? We don't teach the youth about the value of building good credit early on, and oftentimes because we ourselves are not good credit customers. So it's an ongoing problem. The credit crisis, the credit addiction in this country is there. And oftentimes when we talk about credit, it's using credit in all the wrong ways, buying things that we don't need to impress people that we don't know with money that we don't have. All these things are very vital to understand. But why is it more than just a number? It's access. Having a solid credit score gets you very good access to all forms of leverage. So purchasing an automobile, purchasing a home, getting good rates on mortgages, good rates on car loans, or lease terms on vehicles. All of these things come with good credit. And it's that magic saying, those who have money make money. It takes money to make money. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. All of these things are said for a reason because it's true. So there are things that we can do as we move along as consumers and as real estate professionals to help those folks that want to become homeowners. I will tell you one thing. We hear these stories all the time. In fact, Eric, you were sharing a story with me about somebody that went through your credit repair program, had a sub 600 credit score, and in 90 days, which was barely enough time for them to find a home anyway, they were bumped up over almost 80 points and were able to get financing for a home in less than the summer that they were looking for their home. So this is real world stuff, real world applications. And I hate to say it, but as real estate professionals, we should not turn up our noses to people that have credit dings. Let's talk to them and help them get into a program. So we're going to move into our next piece, which is the transition. Let's turn these challenges of subprime credit into an actual game plan. We've heard what's holding people back. Let's flip the script. Let's turn these into a way that they can get them fixed. Back to you, Eric.
Thanks, and and that's a great story, and it's an incredibly rewarding feeling when you take someone, especially someone who's been turned down before, and if you can find them before they give up, it's incredibly rewarding to help people get to that dream of home ownership. But it all starts with action, and action is what it's all about. And so we put together a number of action steps that we wanted to recommend. Number one, it all starts, like the 12-step program. First, you got to know what the problem is. You got to know and check your credit reports regularly. You see, because of a major class action lawsuit a few years back, the credit bureaus, which by the way are private companies, the credit bureaus, which collect all the information, so whether you're voluntarily giving it up, they're collecting it. These are private companies, and for a long time, they basically had your financial future in the palm of their hands, because if they reported bad information, misinformation, lack of information, then you were the victim, and they simply continue to make profits by collecting it. So there's a major class action suit. Today, all of us are entitled to a free copy of your credit report every year. And I encourage you. And there's two schools of thought that I share on this one. Number one is every year, whether it's on your birthday or some significant date, go ahead and pull your credit. When you pull it through this website I'm about to give you, it's absolutely free, and it has no effect on your credit score. Okay. So that's annualcreditreport.com. That's annualcreditreport.com, and pull it. Now there's three different bureaus: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. You want to pull all three on that special date, or pull one every 4 months so that you have a constant view of what your credit score is, all
Great
for
tip.
free, and all part of what you should be doing for managing your finances. So number one, check your credit reports regularly. It's free. And in fact, remember, this is a great tool for you to use. There's other ones like Credit Karma and so forth that give simulated credit scores, but annual credit report is the real thing, the full real thing that you want to do. Patrick, let's talk about some more stuff.
So understanding what impacts our score, we kind of touched on this earlier, but how we live our lives. In fact, Eric, you said something earlier, and I didn't write it down, but what was that short saying? How you do something is how you typically do everything.
How you do some things is how you do most things. And if you look at how people behave and act, it's so true. You know,
Okay. Yep. All right. So understanding what impacts our score, it's shaped by more than just paying on time, right? It's a combination of several factors that tell lenders how risky or how reliable we are. First of all, the breakdown, payment history, and utilization. Your payment history, meaning do you pay on time, makes up the biggest chunk of your score. So if you are continuously or habitually making late payments on any credit, whether it's a credit card payment, a mortgage payment, a rent payment that's reported, anything that's reported to the bureaus, you're going to get dinged on your credit report. And it shows up very clearly. And Eric, your advice of pulling the free credit report is vital. You can see that at a glance. And real estate professionals help your customers do that. If they haven't done it, guide them through it. It's a great way to build rapport, deepen your relationship with them, and add value to what you do as a professional. But we're looking at the credit mix, the utilization of your credit score. And Eric, you did mention Credit Karma, and even My FICO is another way to get these tools. They can help you monitor your score and spot issues. The other thing that we want to talk about is your habits, right? So now I've got a bunch of credit here, and I realize I'm in a bit of a pickle. What do I do first? Well, there's a couple of angles of attack. One is you want to either increase your income, which solves everything, right? So get into the real estate business, become part of our team, join us in our mission for the 5-year career, and pay off all that stinking credit and become debt free. However, if you can't do all of that, let's get smart with the money that we have. Let's stop wasting it on things. And we could spend an entire another 30 minutes on the topic of avoiding high cost treats like Starbucks every single day and other things that are wastes of time. Get your head in the game and start building wealth. But tackling the debts with the highest interest rates first saves you the most money over time. So credit cards, classic example. In fact, credit card interest rates often change without you knowing about it. When you sign up for that credit card, there's a lot of documentation that goes in there. Much of it talks about how your rate's going to escalate over time, whether you pay on time or not. And certainly, if you have late payments, you're going to get whacked with horrible interest rates. Couple of ways to do that. They talk about the avalanche versus the snowball method. This is good to talk with your real estate clients about. The avalanche method focuses on paying off high interest debts first. Get those out of the equation so that you can apply more money to your other debts and have a more balanced payment history. While the snowball method, which is the opposite of the avalanche, starts with the smaller ones first, that you can get confidence in paying off. Ladies and gentlemen, either way, taking action and doing something is going to be in your best interests. There's a little highlight and something that, Albert Einstein talked about, compound interest. I think it was Albert Einstein. It was the eighth wonder of the world. He said, those who understand compound interest earn it. Those who don't, pay it. And that's kind of how our world works today in our economy. So it can work for you when you understand how to use it. So what are some other actionable steps we can do? Paying down high leverage, high cost debt is one thing. Eric, what are some other things we can do?
Those are great advice. And whether you pick the avalanche method, the snowball method, or any of the other, it's all about consistency and being on a plan to eliminate debt. So that's really good. So another part to that is to create and stick to a budget. Now, I'll tell you, Patrick, the word budget is like a curse word for some people. They don't want to hear it, they don't want to say it, they don't want to do it. My ex-wife was an excellent example. You couldn't put her on a budget if the end of the world depended on it. But you got to use, and there's great little tools. And you're talking about credit score. A lot of our credit cards now even provide our credit score on there so we can monitor and manage that. That's even them telling you that you should. But there's programs like Mint and Every Dollar, and there's other ones that allow you to put in your monthly expenses. And now you should know what is your bottom line, what is your total expenses for the month, and compare that, ladies and gentlemen, with your net take home pay. Okay. Not the gross salary that you think you're earning, but your net take home pay. Compare that with so is your budget, are you in the red? Are you in the black? You got to focus on cash flow. You see, nobody ever goes broke on positive cash flow. I've seen companies that were profitable, had wrong timing of their inflows and their outflows and go broke. Nobody goes broke on positive cash flow. So watch what your monthly cash flow is. Look at things, take it to the next level. Look at things like debt to income ratio. Businesses do that. Successful businesses do all of this. And if we were to treat our lives, especially as real estate professionals, as a business, we would all be much better off. You know, and once you do that, thanks to technology today, we can automate a lot of these things. You know, when I remember I used to write like 40 some checks a month. Okay. I used to spend hours balancing writing checks, licking envelopes, addressing envelopes, stamping envelopes. Crazy when you think about today. I set all of that up. I write a check very rarely here and there, and that's because somebody else's technology isn't up to speed. Don't you be the person with the low technology. Set up automatic payments. You avoid late payments. When you go to dispute with the credit bureau, say, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I had this on automatic draft. You guys didn't draft it correct. Please fix your records and it'll protect your credit score a lot. Remember, 35% of your score is on-time payments alone. So on-time payments is the most important thing. Well, what's the next most important thing, Patrick?
So now we're talking about that mix, right? So avoid opening new credit. So, you've got your existing credit accounts, right? And that's part of the scoring mechanism. How many credit accounts do you have? How much usage do you have with them? But one of the recommendations is avoid opening up a new account unless it's very strategic in nature. In other words, A lot of Americans get credit card offerings in the mail unsolicited all the time. Oh, look, honey, we've got a credit line of $3,500 from some new credit company. And what's a common mistake people do? They open up that credit line and they run out and they use a lot of that credit. They buy something that they don't necessarily need or haven't planned for strategically. And now they're back in the dive of ruining their credit once again. So opening new credit accounts can lower your score if used improperly, but it can also be helpful. So beware that sometimes these can trigger hard inquiries, right? So always ask, get on the phone, chat with somebody at that thing if you're planning on strategically opening up credit so that you're not getting dinged on the hard pull. You have a question or a comment, Eric?
Yeah, I do, and I hate to say this, but almost always opening up a new credit line lowers your score for the reasons you said. There's an inquiry, oftentimes multiple inquiries in the case of a car loan and so forth.
Mhm.
So the optimal is, you want to have a number of trade lines. That's how the banks and the credit bureaus look at you, that says, look, he's got multiple trade lines and he manages them well, he or she. And here's the other flip side, so you're going to open them along the way. The magic number is 2 to 4 inquiries a year is positive. More than that is negative, and it's more negative than just the regular hits. But corollary to what you're saying is, in addition to opening new credits intelligently, do not close old credit lines. A lot of people say, well, I haven't used that in a long time, I'll just close it. Don't, because another one of those elements of that formula is length of credit history. And when you
Mhm.
cut off old credit, you actually drop points because now you have a shorter history to go back. So sorry to interrupt, but I just had to throw
No,
that
that's
part in there.
very valid point. And it's funny because these are very subtle things, right? And I know another one that's a big popular thing is getting retail credit cards. Oh, that Macy's credit card, you're going to get a 10% discount every time you use it. Well, the challenge with that again is sometimes we're lured by that, like, oh, I've got a Macy's credit card. I better run to Macy's so I can save 10%. When in fact, we're spending money that we don't have that's going to impact our ability to pay off other credit. So, very valid points that you're bringing up, Eric. It's good to have.
And one more thing
Yeah.
on the retail side. I mean, we could talk about credit literally for hours, but there is discrimination amongst credit. In other words, there are classes of
Mhm.
credit. The mortgage, the highest form of credit, the most respected out there, that gives you the biggest bang for the dollar. Those retail cards are on the bottom. If you have a lot of retail but no mortgages, a negative. You have a lot
Mhm.
of mortgages and no retail, a positive. A mix, a positive. Back to you.
Yep. And part of that too, is the having your go-to credit cards that provide you the best terms, the lowest rates, a good credit line, and then using just a portion of that. So, I've talked to many, many lenders and many people in the credit business. One of the tips that they say is take your credit card out to lunch once a month. Having credit that's not utilized is also not a plus. Just having it sit there on your credit report, but used and paid off, used and paid off, used and paid off is a great way to boost your credit score. But you don't want to use it to 75% of its value and then try and pay off $8,000 in credit. Use $80 and pay that off. That's going to help your credit score. Another thing that can help is and this may sound controversial or contrary, but asking for a credit line increase on some of your existing credit. What does that do? Well, if you've got a credit line of, let's say, $2,500 and you can boost it to 5,000, and not use the 5,000, not use anymore, well, now your utilization of available credit has gone from, let's call it 50% to now 25%. Well, you just improved your credit score. You've improved your credit worthiness. So little things like that only people that understand the business can help an uneducated, I don't mean that negatively, but somebody who's not aware of how credit works really make smart and strategic moves without having to earn more money or pay more than they can afford to pay. So all of these tips, and there are many, many more we could go on for hours about, but we have a 30-minute window here, are things that can rapidly improve your credit. So Eric, Mr. Credit Fixer himself, what are some other things that we can do to get this ship righted and get people ready to buy a home?
Great point on utilization, because that's also one of the main factors there is, what percentage of credit you're using. And the more leeway you have, the better of a money manager you're considered to be. But let's talk about, what about people who are starting out from bad credit, or even worse, believe it or not, no credit. I'll tell you a story about a couple that we just had who just moved to the United States in the last year. Got applied for their social security number and everything, but guess what? Had zero credit, no credit there. And so how do you get them credit in order to be able to buy a mortgage and so forth? And so one of the tips that's out there, especially if whether you're building or rebuilding credit, is to use what's called a secure credit card. If you keep getting turned down and no credit card companies want to take you, there's actually a way where you make a deposit. So you put money into a savings account, like a CD or something, where the money is now going to be reported when you borrow that money. So they'll let you borrow against the money, so they're secured, why they call it a secured credit card. And then when you pay it back, they report that as if it was a trade line. So you can instantly create a new credit trade line, regardless of credit or no credit, by doing that. And believe it or not, another little tip for those of you who work with international buyers, you can even create a credit profile with an ITIN number, and a income tax identification number is what ITN stands for, and get them started. And then when they finally get a social security number, you can actually transfer that information to your new social security number. So the sooner that you start building that credit, you're going to be doing your clients a big favor. And remember, small charges, full monthly payoff builds those lines of credit. There are services now even that report rent history. In fact, we've got a service that will even go backwards 2 years and report up to 2 years of past credit. So people are often amazed when I say, I'll create a credit profile. Tell me what you've been doing. And if we can document that, then we're halfway there, and we can help our clients to get that dream of home ownership faster, better, and under better. The bottom line of all of this, right? Whether it be budgets or anything, is track your progress. Okay. Today, you are where you are. Don't judge, but know where you are today. Know your income, know your expenses, know what your liabilities are, know what your credit score is. And I'm not saying generally, I know exactly, know what it is, and then know what you need to do next, and then make it a journey. Set tangible, realistic, but clear goals, to raise my score in 30 days, for example. These are what get you the results that you want. And more importantly, this is what gets the results that your clients want. I just received today a really nice testimonial. It was all about that whole fact of somebody that they could trust, that gave them the guided path how to get to home ownership, which today they enjoy. Back to you.
Fantastic. So this pretty much wraps up our content for today. Again, we could go on for hours about credit, but I think what we are trying to relay here to the team, to all of the real estate professionals, our customers rely on us to be more than just glorified taxi drivers and door openers. We can provide so many services, whether it's access to great loan programs. Some of our loan officers, in fact, Eric and I are both licensed mortgage professionals. We've got another one, Andrew, on the call as well. All of these skills and licensing can help us guide people to make the right decisions. Credit, certainly one of the very first that we can guide them on. We encourage you to not only utilize what we're talking about here, but participate with us in our Done For You program. Eric, I'm going to share my screen briefly here, because one of the things that we do here at the 5-Year Career is we have a Done For You home buyer webinar program. And can you see the screen, Eric, with the QR code?
Yes.
Okay, so if you haven't already done it, take a photo of that QR code. You'll be taken to a website and register for our next home buyer webinar. We talk about things like credit there as well. The whole goal is to build relationships with people. Getting 30 or 40 people on a monthly webinar can build more customers than you will ever be able to handle, many of whom may have credit dings. What a great opportunity to introduce them to what we talked about today and at least meet with them and find out how we can help. And there's many other things that people can do if they want to buy a home. They can get co-signers, they can budget, they can plan, all of those wonderful things. But that's all part of the building process. So if you'd like to have us do it for you, to work with you, click on that, register for our next webinar, give us a call, reach out to us on our website, and we are more than happy to chat you through the process. So without any further ado, today was yet another episode of tools that we can use in the industry to help our customers. Eric, I don't know if there's anything else that you've got that's fit for the order, but visit us on our YouTube channel, visit us at our website, give us a call, shoot us a text. Skip Wiley, by the way, is not here. He's out selling real estate in Panhandle, Pensacola, Florida. So hopefully he'll come back with some more meat for the table. Eric, anything before we sign off with the team?
No, the bottom line is this all comes back to this concept of a 5-year career. Traditionally, everyone thinks that a career has to be 40 years, and then they slave 40 hours a week, 40 years of their lives, only to retire on less than 40% of what they couldn't make it on while they were working anyway. Today, what we're trying to show you, especially in the real estate world, where we provide one of the most valuable services, home ownership, that not only are we doing a great thing, but we can do it in a great time. We can knock this out. Now, you don't have to quit after 5 years, but imagine if you could, right? Know that in 5 years, the money part of the equation is solved. And now I can go about the business of, whatever my special purpose is, whatever my passion is, spend more time with family, travel around the world, or sell a heck of a lot more real estate and make more people homeowners. Either way, check out the 5-year career. Why not do it in 5 and not 40?
Amen to that. Until next time, folks, we'll